Hi, IWF. We're here with Dr. Fleur Sack today. Fleur, tell us about your journey to Miami. I know that you grew up in another continent, so start there.
Okay, I'll start off in South Africa. I was born and raised in South Africa and came to America with two young children in 1976 at the age of 24 or 25, and basically emigrated with my husband, a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a medical degree, and a husband who was a qualified anesthesiologist. In this country, knew nobody, knew nothing. Knew that we were going to need to drive on the other side of the road, but that was about all that we knew.
And what brought you to the United States?
Well, basically, we were very anti-apartheid. And basically, Simon, my husband, had basically been in the army in South Africa because everybody was enlisted there. And he swore that he would never have his children fight against people that they shouldn't be fighting against. And decided, before I even knew him, that he was going to emigrate to America. And so young, I was in love. I was actually stupid, didn't realize what an immigration really meant. And we got on the plane and came.
And so,
and
so what did you learn when you arrived here in 1978? And tell us
oh,
about your journey
I,
then.
I learned about how big the cars were because I drove a tiny little car. I learned what a quarter was because a quarter to me, I didn't even know what it was. I didn't know what a dime was. I didn't know what a cent was. I didn't know. I mean, we spoke English, but some of the language was really, really different. So when I started, I had graduated already from medical school and done 1 year of internship. But I spoke different language. Like, could you please get me the Bowmanometer? And they didn't know what a Bowmanometer was because that's what we call machine. And so there was a lot of different terminology that we had to learn. And the way that I pronounced things was different. And so I had to learn how to pronounce things just from a medical point of view. So there was a lot of that kind of learning, which was interesting. Um, and then just learning the American way. We left South Africa because of racism, because books were banned, and we didn't think that books were banned. Abortion was illegal in South Africa, and I had been a medical student and an intern and saw people die of abortions. And so we came to this country and thought everything was terrific. And now in South Africa, there's less racism and abortion is legal, and books aren't banned. So it's sort of like we've learned a lot and come around a long way.
Yeah. Well, tell us about your professional journey after you arrived here in Miami.
We came directly to Miami, thinking that we would be here for, until we saw the rest of the country, because we knew nothing about America. I mean, we had never been here. We knew nothing about America. We chose Miami because it sounded nice, and we looked in the World Book Encyclopedia, and the weather sounded nice. And so we came here thinking that we would just come here, we would settle, Simon had to work for 2 years, his licensing, his anesthesia licensing. He had to work for a teaching hospital, and we would then decide where to go, and we have never left since since 1976. So people ask where I grew up, and I say I grew up once in South Africa, and the next time I grew up was in Miami. So that's
Yeah.
how I feel about it.
Well,
So
to us about your growing up journey once you got to Miami. You talk about your professional journey.
So once I came to Miami, I had done an internship in South Africa, but I had to repeat that. And so I did an internship and a residency in the Department of Family Medicine at hospital and the University of Miami. And it was broken up because I had two small kids and I wanted to be with them, and it was difficult to do it at that time. I didn't have a lot of support. I didn't know a lot of people here. But I did graduate in 1985. I think I graduated, and basically I did family medicine, and at that time it was sort of, people didn't really know what family medicine was. And I was lucky enough to do it at the University of Miami with the father of family medicine. His name was Lynn Carmichael. And it was a great, great experience. And I've been a very, very happy family physician since then. I worked part-time most of my career. I worked part-time because I had young children. Um, and then basically I had I was a young woman, and so young women came to me. Older men didn't tend to come to young women as physicians. So I became very interested in women's health and realized that there was a lot of work to do that. That has changed. And then I just by chance, I got into the AIDS. I was really involved with the AIDS epidemic because I was sharing space with somebody. I was renting space from somebody who was a gay man and had a lot of gay patients, and I would take call for him. And so I would cover for him when he went away and over weekends and so on, and found myself smash in the middle of the AIDS epidemic. We didn't even know what it was then because this was early 1985. And so I became very involved with that and realized that women were going to get AIDS as well. It wasn't just homosexual men and Haitians that would get it. And so became very, very involved with that, and because I was such a women's health advocate. I started lecturing all over the place about it and wrote a book. One of my proudest things was that I wrote a book about HIV disease in women, trying to warn them about it. And the book, my proudest thing is that it was translated into French and Japanese. And I always laugh about the fact that some Japanese woman is reading all about. I mean, there was there were a lot of words in there that we didn't usually use, but we had to start using. And so that started a whole different career. So I was involved with the AIDS epidemic. And then I also was involved with women who had eating disorders. So my waiting room was very interesting because there were all these thin women. There were anorectic women and women with HIV disease and AIDS who were dying and nobody. You'd sit in my waiting room and most people were thin in my waiting room. And then basically decided to branch off from HIV. It was getting too difficult and too emotionally difficult, and also difficult. There weren't many women that were taking care of people with HIV disease. And so I was getting to have and I still wanted to be a family physician. I still wanted to take care of the 18-year-old with sore throats and the woman who is going through menopause and so on. And so I broke off from that and just became a regular family physician. And slowly men started coming into my practice. And so right now I've got about 40% of my patients are men and about 60% are women, still very interested in women's health. So I had a practice for a number of years. My husband retired and I had two grandchildren. So we went to live in Davie, Florida. I gave up my practice, went to help take care of the grandchildren, and realized that I really couldn't stay. I wasn't a stay-at-home mom. And so I got a job at the VA. And basically, because I didn't want to start a practice, it was too hard to do that. And working at the VA was challenging and interesting, and people didn't realize that there were a lot of young female veterans going to the VA for help. And so I started a program there for the returning Iraqi and Afghanistan female veterans. And it was fascinating. It was really fascinating and difficult and emotionally very difficult, with people not, you had a female veteran with an eating disorder, and there was nobody at the VA that knew how to take care of them. And so it became really very difficult. At the same time, my grandchildren were growing up and didn't have time for me anymore. They were busy doing their own life, and so we decided, really in a crazy kind of idea, we decided to come back to Miami just before I turned 65 and reopen a practice in Miami. Everybody thought I was crazy. I knew that I should have seen a psychiatrist to figure out why I wanted to do it, but I didn't. And so I restarted my practice and have been extremely busy since then. Because some of my old patients, when I say old patients, some of my patients basically I knew in 1985, and they're still my patients now. And so when I knew them before they got married, and now they're married and they're getting older and have got all of their, they're in their late 70s, 80s, and got lots of medical problems and so on. So I've had the pleasure of watching them grow and watch their families grow and become to become grandparents and so on. So, and they always laugh about the time that we used to have to, before people got married, before they got their marriage license, they had to have a syphilis test. I don't know, people don't do that anymore. And so they would come to me for their tests, and I would talk to them about HIV disease. And now they laugh about it because I still talk about HIV disease to their children and their grandchildren. So
Wow.
it's been a wonderful, wonderful journey. I've loved every minute of it.
Yeah. Well, I know you're very busy with your practice. What are you learning about now?
Well, I basically it's very interesting. I am involved with with I'm involved with an international group of people interested in women as they age and what is it that we are lacking in the knowledge of women as they age and what research do we need and so on. And so worldwide, there is a real lack of knowledge. And so we are trying, and I'm part of a group, and in fact, I'm leading the group looking at what medical schools are teaching and residency programs are teaching the professionals and the nursing schools and so on. What are they teaching the providers about how to take care of women as they age? And it is astounding what lack of knowledge there is. It's absolutely mind-blowing what lack of knowledge there is. And so our task is to try and see what we can do about changing the curriculum, talking about worldwide. I'm not talking about just in Miami, but just worldwide. And so it's a big job, and it's kind of like a daunting job, but it's really interesting. So I'm interested in that at the same time as I am I'm hoping to get a diploma in lifestyle medicine, which lifestyle medicine is really interesting. It looks at what are the causes of our diseases and what can we do to stop that. And so it's, the modules that I do are on eating and what we should be eating, which is very interesting. And we all know what we should be eating, but we don't do it. But
Right.
if we did, I wouldn't have a job. I would go to work and patients. And the second thing is exercise, how to actually teach people to exercise, and then how to sleep, how to be mindful, how to form communities, because we're very interested in how we form communities, and people who take care of each other actually live longer and live healthier lives. And so that's what I'm hoping to get a kind of a certification in. So I would be a board certified lifestyle medicine physician.
Right. That sounds like I read books about longevity. It sounds very
Yeah.
similar. And so who gives the certification? How does that work?
There is the American Academy of Lifestyle Medicine. There is an academy that basically people used to roll their eyes, I mean,
Not anymore.
they don't anymore, but basically, I used to say it's important to exercise. And for a very brief time, I worked at the Pritikin Center, which is basically somewhere where people that are overweight or have medical problems go. And we used to reverse disease, just by making people exercise and eat healthfully. You really can. And it's becoming more and more in vogue now. But they're very few, and they're getting more and more to do it, because you can read a lot of books on longevity, but is it really what they're teaching you? Is it based in actual scientific data? And this is, it is now part of the the American Medical Association now has included people on the board who have certification in lifestyle medicine. It's becoming more mainstream, and I'm happy to be part of that mainstream.
And what is your top three things or top three advice that patients or you could give to IWF members about what they should be doing for lifestyle?
Well, basically, I think that eating is really important, and what we eat is really, really important. And so I am basically in my mind, I think about the foods that we should be eating and the foods that we shouldn't be eating. Now, I've been a vegan for the last 3 years, so it's easy for me to talk about what vegans should eat. But I also realize that it's not easy to become a vegan. I couldn't say, Melanie, if you became a vegan, you would be much healthier, and you walk out of here and say, okay, I'll be a vegan. But basically, what I tell my patients is that I think of food in three different categories: the A, the B, the C, and then even the D. So the C categories are actually any animal products. So that's, and basically chicken, meat, butter, any animal products or the C products, and we should be having as little of that as possible. The B product, fish, is an animal product, but it's sort of kind of between B and C. So if you're going to eat animal products, then fish is basically what you should choose rather than beef or chicken. People think that chicken is healthy, but it's really not. Eggs are go into the B category, and actually there's some very interesting studies about eggs, and it seems like eggs are actually not bad. They're healthy. And so eggs are, I tell patients that they can have eggs. I don't eat eggs, but I tell them that they can eat eggs. So if they're going to get their protein from animal products, it should be from eggs and fish, and very little of the others. And then the A's is what you can eat as much as, where you should get your protein from, and your whole grains. So your whole grains and beans and legumes and nuts and soy products is where you should get your protein from. And, whole grains, of course, and quinoa. Quinoa has got a lot of protein. So you need protein, but you should get most of it from your A products. And then fruits and vegetables and salads, they're all healthy. They are all healthy. And then processed meats are in the D product, are in D.
Like never touch them.
Never, never, ever. Don't become a vegan, but never eat bacon. That kind or if you do, just to celebrate your mother's 102nd birthday or something. So that's how simply I tell patients to do it. But then how do you get patients to change their way of thinking? It's whole different. How do you behavior modification becomes really difficult because Melanie, you probably are healthy and you probably exercise and so on, and you probably think about these things a lot more than many of our members do or other people think about it. So that becomes, how does somebody who thinks that, meat, that have very unhealthy eating habits and sit on the couch all day, how do you turn them around into healthy eaters and exercisers?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
uh.
Well, it's a laudable goal, so good luck with that. Talk to us about, have you had any mentors, or what's the best advice you've ever received?
Uh, I think the best that I ever received was probably from my mother, who basically said two things. And she said that every cloud has a silver lining. So you could look at anything and you could find this silver lining in it. And she did. She absolutely did. So she was married to a man, my father, who was a bilateral amputee and who was blind.
Oh,
And
wow.
basically, you can imagine how difficult that was. And I said to my mother, one day I was being sassy and I said to her, okay, so tell me about the silver lining. What is good about having a husband who is blind and a double amputee. And she, without blinking an eyelid, she said to me, well, he's always there when I want to talk to him because he was bedbound. And she really, really, she loved him and he was always there when she wanted him. So she could do that. And so I try and look at life that way. And I try and get my patients to look at things, which is
There's
really,
health benefits for having a positive attitude, no?
absolutely, absolutely, is really terribly ill at the moment, came into me and said to me, I'm really a mess. And I said to her, you're not a mess. You're actually a strong, wonderful woman. Your body might be a mess, but you're not a mess. And she said, you're absolutely right. I can fight this. I mean, it changed her whole thinking. And so I think that having a positive attitude is really, really important. And I try and give my patients that all of the time. And many of my patients say, thank you, thank you, thank you. You make me feel so much better. And I think I haven't done anything. And then I realize I've given them positive messages. And the other message that my mother gave me was that we lived in a country where everything was, we lived under apartheid. My mother saw every single person as a human being, and she taught me to look at every single person as a human being. And so I think that she was a strong, wonderful woman, and she taught me the values that I really value these days, today.
Great lessons. Great lessons. What is the most exciting or memorable adventure you've had outside of your career?
Oh, it must have been when I went whitewater rafting down the Tatoochini River in Alaska. And
Wow.
we went, it was absolutely amazing. I basically did not want to ever go whitewater rafting. I didn't realize when I signed up with my husband that that was what we were going to do. And we got to, we got into these, they're not canoes, but they're like big, they were
Rafts.
only, what do they call them? I can't, whatever,
Raft?
these rafts, these
Yeah.
big rafts. And they had 4 rafts a day that went down the river, and that was it. So it was the most remote that you can believe, because we didn't see anybody else except the people that were on our raft. This was many years ago, before we had these incredible cell phones and so on. And in our group was a man who I knew had heart disease because he was a patient of mine. And so I said to the guide, I went up to the guide and I said to her, what happens if he has a heart attack in the middle of the river? And the answer was, well, oh well. That was how remote it was. It
We'll
was
figure it out.
beautiful. It was exciting. It was beautiful. It was, when I have to think about anything, I think about that beautiful, beautiful river in Alaska, and how pristine it was and beautiful.
Sounds amazing. Okay, just some fun questions. What is a fact about you we could not find on the internet?
Um, well, I think the fact that you would not find on the internet was, at the age of 75, I decided that I would learn how to play tennis. And I had never played tennis in my life. I did it because and it is one of the most difficult things I ever had to do, because I exercise a lot, but I don't have good eye-hand coordination, or I didn't think that I did. And I had watched my kids. My kids were very serious tennis players. We actually had a tennis court in our house when they grew up. But I used to think that it was the most stupid game. Why would anybody worry about where the ball landed? And so, and I knew that I couldn't do it. I still can't do it really well. But I did it because it really expanded my mind and expanded my sense of my own body, and I learned a lot, and I love it. So,
Great.
but you won't find me playing tennis.
That's a good one. What book are you recommending now?
Well, there are 2 books. The book that I really, really, really loved was The Covenant. by Abraham Verghese.
Yeah, The Covenant of Water.
The Covenant of Water, The Covenant of
Beautiful
Water.
book. Yeah,
A
beautiful.
beautiful, beautiful book, and I loved it, and I've given it to people. But I personally learned a lot about how to be a doctor through there, because he's the kind of doctor that would be my role model, that is a role model for being a
Yeah.
doctor. And then I've just finished reading a book called James, and James is a very
It's next. It's sitting on my nightstand.
sitting on your nightstand. You will love it. You will love it. I
Yeah.
think you'll really love it. And interestingly enough, I saw the Books and Books had a list of Obama's favorite books that he had
It
read
was
recently.
number one. Yeah, it was number
And
one.
James is number one. And so I think everybody should read it, because it really teaches you a lot about slavery and slaves and humanity. It's a wonderful, wonderful book. I loved it.
Yeah, it's my very next book. I finished another one a couple days ago,
How
and I
did
have
how
finished
did
it.
you know to read that? How did you
You
put
know,
it on?
I saw someone posted on Instagram a couple weeks ago saying it's the best book of the year. It was that person's belief it was the best book of the year, and then I saw it on Obama's. I had already bought it, but it's been sitting there. I had to finish books first, but it's next. But I think that it's in line for the Pulitzer as well. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wonderful book.
okay, last question. If you were in charge of the playlist, what song would play next?
Um, I think I th there are three books. There are three. Can I have three, or can I only have one?
You can have three.
I can have three.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that what I listen to sometimes when I'm feeling like I need a little something, I'm a little bit down and I need something, is something by a woman by the name of Leanne Warwick, called
Mhm.
I Hope You Dance. And not many people have read it or listened to it, I mean, but basically the bottom line of that is that if you get the chance to sit it out or dance, I hope you dance.
Yeah,
And
great.
basically, I think that that's something that I want to teach my grandchildren and my great grandchildren, that if you get the chance to sit it out or dance, just go for it. And there's also something about don't fear the mountain in the distance. And I like that. I think that there's a lot to learn from her. And I love the music anyway. So that's something, I don't know if you've ever heard it, but it's worthwhile
Oh,
listening
yeah,
to.
I love the song. I love the song. And
And
what are
then
your two?
and then the other two is when I also need something to kind of, when I'm thinking, am I doing the right thing? What am I doing? I'm doing some crazy stuff. I listen to I Did It My Way by Frank Sinatra, because I just hope that at the end, when the end is near, that I can say, I did it my way. And then basically, of course, I love, like many, many people, love Hallelujah. So, so Hallelujah, I did it my way. And I hope that I never sat it out, but I danced. I think that would be what I would, that I would like people to remember me by.
Great playlist. Actually, that reminds me, I should make an IWF playlist with all of these songs. I'm gonna work on that one.
Oh, that would be great.
That'd
That
be
would be
great.
great. That would be great. You could do it at maybe at the Christmas party or
Yeah,
something.
holiday party. Yeah, maybe I'll try to get it done by then. Well,
Uh-huh.
thank you for great talking to you. Hope to
Thank
see you
you.
soon.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay. Bye-bye. Bye. Bye. Thank you so much for having this opportunity.